Good morning, everybody. It's Barb Katie here. I'm so glad to see everyone, and it's going to be an excellent day today. It's very, very chilly. We still have 3 weeks until it's officially winter, but nobody told Mother Nature that, and she has her own calendar. So we've had snow over the weekend, not a lot, but enough to get us in the beginning of the holiday season. Sun is shining. It's clear outside, so I'll have time to get my walk in after we talk, and then I'll head on over to my chapter to have my weight checked, which is a really good thing. I always look forward to the Monday accountability, and it does help me stay more focused and aware, more mindful, if you will, during the weekend, which I know for some of us can be a real struggle. I won't talk to you too much about sports today, but it was a really good weekend as far as sports were concerned. All my teams won, so I was a very happy camper in that regard. But I digress. What I want to talk to you about today is something that I've been noticing a lot in our Facebook group and within myself. And I happened to come across an article that our friend Michelle May had written some time ago about how to eat a balanced, non-restrictive way instead of eating what the diet culture tells us we should be eating. And as I got into it more and more, I looked at the messages we send each other on our website, we are much more almost brainwashed, if you will, by the diet culture of our society than we'd like to think we are. You know, we say we're aware, we say we're focused, we say that we make mindful decisions and choices, but our language all sometimes reveals ways of thinking we may not consciously be aware of. And so I came up with a series of questions related to this that I thought I would just share with you a little bit. One of the first one, and it's one I know I have said more than once, is, do I crave sugar? You know, when people are talking about, making meal plans and stuff like that, I struggle with baked goods. I struggle with candy. For me personally, I've always, I can't have M&Ms in the house. I love sweets. And this is a challenge during this season from Halloween on. Sweets tend to play a more significant role than they obviously do. And let me just preface almost everything I'm going to say this morning with the fact that we all have the power to make choices. And every time I say something like, I crave sweets, I can't have them, it's sort of denying that I can control my destiny, that I can make intelligent choices, that I can eat in a balanced, non-restrictive way because it's what I want to do. I can choose to have sweets to a degree. I can choose to not have sweets. It can be an informed, conscious choice. Okay, so that was number one. And then the next one really is sort of, it set me back on my heels. I'm trying to eat more healthy, or I want to make changes to old habits, like decreasing the amount of soda, or increasing the number of vegetables I eat a day. Or for me, it's usually fruit, because I love fruit, but I tend to forget about it for some peculiar reason. And that when I try to give something up or add something in, it lasts for a couple of weeks and then it just slips away from front of mind again. This again is a matter of choice. I can keep this front of mind. I have that power. I can do it if that's what I really want to do. The next thing that I came about became aware of when I was contemplating all this is that I'm afraid I'm going to lose control if I eat certain foods, that they really are triggers for me. And once I start eating it, I cannot stop until I finish the whole thing. And like I've shared with you all before, that's me and M&Ms. And is it true? Is it not true? Can I really change that? Do I have a choice, or are M&Ms stronger than me? My diet mind says, it's not my fault. It's M&Ms. You know how I am with M&Ms. I feel addicted to sugar or to carbs, and I love these low nutrient, high calorie, carb loaded foods. Especially when I'm stressed out, I want to eat that type of thing. Again, do I have the ability to choose? I think I do. I really think, like the first line of the Topps Pledge says, I am an intelligent person and I can make good choices if I want to. Sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes maybe it's out of boredom, out of stress, out of fatigue, thirst, emotions, whatever. My eating will take a more compulsive turn. Am I eating my emotions? Am I eating my feelings instead of choosing to work at what's eating me? I don't know if you ever saw the movie, What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Really good movie about a family that lives with obesity and how the disease impacts the entire family in ways that we're not always fully aware. And it had more to do with emotions than anything else when it came to coping with this very complicated, challenging disease that we all work to live our best lives instead of having it dictate our lives for us. Do I think about food all the time? That's one that is something that I don't do. In fact, sometimes I'll get so busy I don't eat meals when I should, and I end up being too hungry and then overeating. I don't let my body signals help me make mindful decisions. There is such a thing as real, actual hunger. And I'm not always in touch with the level of hunger I'm experiencing. I get distracted by other things and push the hunger aside. Maybe that's, if I did not do that, I would not get into situations where I tend to overeat. But that is one I didn't have, the thinking about food all the time. This is one I identify with really, really strongly. Maybe you do too. The old clean your plate message. I grew up with that message. My mom was one of those that said, eat all your dinner and you can have dessert. Well, dessert was seen as a reward, as something very valuable to me, more so than some of the more nutrient-dense foods that were available at our dinner every day, because my mom was one of those cooks who always had a wide variety of vegetable choices, particularly in addition to the protein and the starch that she gave all of us for dinner. So we had a great opportunity to eat wonderful food. Living with brothers and sisters that had a farm certainly helped us in that regard. Struggling with knowing when and how to stop eating. Sometimes, yeah, I think all of us, particularly during the holidays, sometimes struggle with that. The tendency is to eat probably a little bit more than satiety would dictate was sufficient. Uh, Simply because some of those foods may not come around for another year, and sometimes it's because the whole satisfaction of the dining experience is so lovely and so enjoyable. You just want to surround yourself with that, and the food is part of the pleasure of being together during this time of the year. So knowing when to stop eating. What's wrong with just putting your fork down when you've had enough and still remaining at the table and enjoying the conversation and the socialization with the rest of the family? Instead of just taking another nibble, another taste, another bite, sort of mindlessly because it happens to be there on the table. And if they're serving dishes, for me, that's when the tendency is even more, well, I'll just take a dab more of this or taste more of that, or that was so good, let me just have a little bit more. The next thing is, how susceptible are you to food? Once I think about something, once I get it in my mind, I can't let it go. It just sticks in there. Is that you? Are you a person that maybe grazes? You don't know exactly what it is, but you're going to keep tasting until you find what it is. And sometimes you can go through a whole day's worth of calories just trying to figure out what taste you seem to be looking for. This type of snacking has been a real challenge for a lot of us who are more used to going out in public and working in a public setting. And now to be at home where there are snacks pretty much available on demand at any point in time, this grazing behavior tends to be really a difficult temptation, and to realize that we do have the choice to say yes or no to ourselves in the privacy of our own home about what we should do or what we should not be doing. Then I ask myself if there are high-risk times for me. Yes, evenings are a high-risk time for me. I have to be really cognizant of my history because, again, I came from a family that had something called a tea party after dinner. Dessert was never served with dinner. It was always served after the meal had been cleaned up and everything had been cleared away and put away. And then dessert came later in the evening for all those there to enjoy. So evenings, because it was such a pleasant thing, tend to trigger that response as well. Sometimes I think it's a matter of time. Are you just on a mission to get the food consumed because your body needs to be fed, and you don't pause to evaluate how you're feeling in terms of satisfaction? Sometimes you aren't even satisfied with the eating because you're so distracted that you're not even aware of what you've consumed. Maybe that's why sometimes you get up from a meal and you're still hungry, or like, did I eat all of that? When my kids were young, especially, that was an issue because I would be taking care of the whole family, making sure the little ones got most of the food in their mouths instead of on each other or on the table or whatever, and making sure that if somebody needed an extra glass of milk or whatever, I was up and down all the time during the meal. And so what I ate, I would look and say, did I really finish my plate? I don't remember even eating it. So eating without awareness, again, is another thing. I can choose to take a deep breath, relax, sit down and actually enjoy the meal and evaluate how I'm feeling about it and how it's meeting my needs. Because, food serves a vital need. In fact, it serves many different needs for us at different times. Um, I think all of us struggle with limiting certain foods, uh, to try to stay away from certain things that are calorie dense and nutrient poor. Uh, and that again takes some degree of awareness, especially when it comes to processed foods. They can be so calorie dense and have not a lot of nutritional value for the calorie price you're paying. Uh, Speaking of nutrition, sometimes you just feel like it's too complicated. What do I eat? What is a healthy thing to eat? Do I have to be a food scientist, a nutritionist, a dietitian in order to make intelligent choices? No, we don't need to do that. We need to take a sensible, balanced approach. Instead of saying this is too difficult, this is too hard, I can't do this. Here's another one that I really identify with most strongly, and I hear you all say this very often. Oh, that's a bad food, you shouldn't eat it. Or that's a really good food, you should eat that. Well, what makes a food good or bad? When you get right down to it, food provides calories from protein, fat, and carbohydrate sources. Within all these foods are a combination of different nutrients, vitamins, minerals that your body needs, and fiber, of course. No one food is inherently good or bad. And when you talk about forbidden foods, I have to laugh because I used to belong to a chapter that every week they had this jar and they would pull out of a jar whatever the forbidden food was for the week. 90% of the time, whatever it was that they pulled out of the jar, I didn't even like. And I was like, oh, that's a piece of cake. I know I won't have to pay a dime every time I eat that. I never eat that. It's not something I enjoy eating. And fortunately, I don't think that chapter ever pulled out an M&M as a forbidden food. I would have been in trouble there at that time, probably, if that's so. But no food is inherently good or bad. And in moderation, every food can be eaten occasionally and certainly enjoyed when the opportunity presents itself. Portion size is another thing that you have to look at, I think, and making balanced choices and not being distracted if you're eating out. The plate comes to you in predetermined amounts over which you have made no decision. It just arrives at your place at the table, and then you need to decide what you're going to do. One of the nicest things that happened as far as dining out after COVID was it seems like most restaurants have removed the bread and butter choices from the table just because of sanitation issues. And that's been helpful for many people that would eat a large number of calories before the meal ever arrived. And then if the portion size is too big, it doesn't mean because you paid for it, you have to eat it all right there, right then. You can ask for a box and you can take it home for someone else to enjoy or for you to enjoy the next day. Another thing I think that some people, when you have a diet culture mentality, tend to resist is meal planning and preparation. It just seems like too much bother, too much time, too much trouble. But I challenge you that there's always going to be food prep and and planning, as long as you live alone and prepare your own meals, or you live with a family particularly and prepare meals that the entire family will enjoy together, so that you don't have to cook different meals for different members of the family, that you can make adjustments so that everyone can pretty much enjoy them. Uh, Another real issue is medical conditions that we may have that restrict certain foods from our normal dietary intake. Those are real, and they have to be consciously acknowledged and monitored. And again, it's a matter of choice. You know you have the condition. You know the best foods to eat to manage the condition effectively, and you have a choice to make. Navigating eating habits and preferences always is going to be a challenge. And I think when you have other people in your family who can bring in what I'm going to call junk food that sort of sabotages your efforts, may require some dialogue where you share your feelings with the person who is bringing in things that you have difficulty making good choices about. But understand they may not have that same difficulty, and it may be difficult for them to embrace exactly what you're telling them. And it may take more than one conversation, and they may need to even be reminded that these are issues for you. Another thing is not wanting to choose what you think is a healthy food when there are other foods that are available. And I have to laugh at that because I always think of little kids. And this one story just delights me every time I hear of it. So much of how we look at healthy food is determined by the way we grew up. And the exposure to different foods that we had, and how we see that food in our everyday life. And I can remember I was at a friend's house, and their little boy was coming to the dinner table, and he was just a wee little bit. Maybe he was between 2 and 3, I'll say. His verbal skills were just getting to where you could really understand him. And at that age, if you had given my children an array of foods to choose at dinner, they probably would have gone to foods that were not necessarily the most nutritional. They would have made choices for maybe a piece of candy or a snack pack of some kind. That would have probably been their choice. But here comes this little boy up to the table, and he sits down, and it's a lovely meal, and there are lots of choices to be made. And his eyes got huge, just huge, and his hands went up in excitement, and he said, "Broccoli! You have broccoli!" And he was so thrilled and excited that broccoli was on the list of choices he had to make for that dinner. Wouldn't it be wonderful if all of us could get that turned on by foods that are nutrient dense and calorie light? Goodness gracious, that always has inspired me. And I'm a veggie lover, and more and more I find I am delighted to make those types of choices. So maybe I'm getting just a tiny little bit better and seeing healthy food as the delicious food it really is. And some of my preconceived notions are beginning to fade away. So I think that all of us can break away from a lot of the promotional imaging and artificial preferences that diet culture tends to instill in us as we go through life, and can begin to be more mindful of food choices. We're not depriving ourselves of anything in TOPS. We can make good choices. We have that power and that ability. And there is nothing in moderation with plenty that we cannot eat and enjoy. There's no need to try to fill our lives with restrictions. Instead, we should fill our lives with the pleasure of healthy eating. I guess what I need to focus on, and maybe what you'll decide you want to join me on, is trying to eat healthy, to eat balanced, and to give yourself permission every single day with every single bite to enjoy what you're eating and relish the new lifestyle you're creating day by day for yourself. You have a great day. I didn't mean to go on quite this long, but it's been a pleasure, and it always is, talking with you today. See you later. Bye-bye.